Welcome all of you. Today we will start with a new concept, that is environmental management. So, in this lecture we will cover the concept, the definition and the need or importance of environmental management. Who are the people who manages environment? Environmental managers, right? So, what is their importance, what is their need and what are their roles? That is what we will be covering in today's lecture. So, environmental management, it is basically a planned approach of managing human interaction with the nature. And when we say it is a planned approach of managing human nature interface or interaction, the objective is to minimize negative impacts, to conserve natural resources and ensure sustainable development. See, so far in this course we have studied about environmental planning part. Now we are moving towards management part. Okay. So, planning is inherent in almost every activity. So, planning would be inherent in management also, but in management it is beyond planning, we will be performing some actions also. Okay. So, when it comes to environmental management, it is basically managing human environment interaction in a sustainable way. This diagram shows like how it can be done, like some key indicators of environmental management. It deals with usage of resources. All the resources that either human beings use or the industries or companies use, they come from nature. So, managing those resources efficiently and using them efficiently is part of environmental management. Energy and water use, again these are the key components of environment. So, how do we reduce energy usage, water usage, conserve more and more water and make our energy usage more efficient? That is part of environmental management. Waste generation, first of all we should minimize the generation of waste, and if it is generating, we need to have efficient disposal or reduction measures in place, whether we can reuse it, whether we can do recycling, those things would cover in waste generation. Emissions, carbon emissions, whether how we measure them, how we reduce the environmental footprint or the carbon footprint of organization, that would be covered in the emissions part. And the biodiversity, because of human activities and its impact on the environment, biodiversity is going to get affected. So, preventing that loss of biodiversity, that is again the key element of environmental management. So, these 5 are like some broad aspects which are always addressed and often spoke about in this domain of environmental management. So, basically it is a interdisciplinary approach which needs inputs from different types of disciplines. So, in corporate context, how is it different? Okay, that was generic environmental management we saw. In corporate context, it refers to the strategies, policies and practices often adopted by businesses to minimize their environmental footprint, comply with regulations and move towards sustainable development. See, just like planning, even in management, sustainable development, it is not missed, it is always there. Okay. But in corporate context, it is mainly concerning the corporate sector, the businesses or industries, and they have to develop strategies, policies and practices to minimize their environmental footprint. And not just that, they should comply with the regulations and they should aim towards sustainable development. So, it basically covers a wide range of industries and a wide range of issues. Okay. The environmental management, some industries may concern mainly about water pollution, some may be concerned about land pollution or soil exploitation, okay. Some may be concerned about erosion or biodiversity loss, depends on what kind of industry or what kind of organization we are talking about. But often the scope of environmental management for any company, it is not within the walls of that company. It does not just includes its own activities, whatever is happening within the boundary of the company or organization. It should also account, or it is also accountable for the suppliers, the consumers, the investors and the wider public which stays around the premises of the company, or the customers who use the products of those company. All those things or entities are also included in the scope of company's environmental management. So, why this is important for corporates? Why do businesses should give importance to environmental management? Okay. Because nowadays we have laws and compliances for everyone, because of rapid industrialization, which has happened, and mainly because of excessive use of fossil fuels and cutting down of trees and forests. There are global challenges of climate change, global warming. So, there to ensure legal compliance and avoid penalties, it is important for corporates. There are laws and compliances both at state level and national level as well as global level by different organizations so far as environmental impacts or emissions are concerned. So, to ensure that legally company is complying to that and avoiding penalty, it is important to build brand reputation and customer trust. Like for example, let us say ISO standard. So, ISO standard is a voluntary standard, but something like ISO 9000, it deals with safety, quality, ISO 14000 deals with environment. Then there are many eco or green labels and marks you see on number of products all the company websites nowadays. So, those things they help build the reputation of the brand and also gain customers trust, because nowadays even customers and clients, they are also aware about the environmental front, they are aware about the climate change. So, they see like whatever money they are investing in or whatever product they are buying from market, if it really has very significant impact on environment or it is environmental friendly. Okay. Like you talk about organic farming or organic produce or naturally normally grown produce, if both of them are given at same price, people will obviously prefer and go for organic ones. So, that shows like in within like deep within inside, everyone wants to contribute to the environment and avoid or minimize the things that would have a negative impact on environment. Okay. So, for companies it is important to include environmental management to build their brand reputation and gain customer trust. It helps to enhance operational efficiency and do cost savings. It helps to promote research and monitoring, because if environmental management factor is included in the company's culture, they would keep on monitoring their emissions, they would keep on exploring some innovative ways to reduce those emissions. So, it would promote R&D culture. It helps to warn threats and identify opportunities. If there is a monitoring system in a company, then some new threats might be identified, some new opportunities may also be identified if there is an environmental management system in the company. Then having that environmental front integrated with corporate culture, it will attract green investment and ESG funding. It will also contribute to SDGs. So, there are these are some of the factors which I have listed. There are many more which proves why it is important for corporates to have that environmental management factor. These are the websites of some big companies in India, and you see like whether it is a Tata or NTPC or Reliance, almost all the companies nowadays they have this section or segment of sustainability or environment or health, safety and environment, which is formed as a separate department, a separate division, which shows that whether it is a private sector or a public sector company, both of them have given importance to this environmental initiative or the sustainability aspect. So, these are our hardware based companies, production sectors which exist. People see their products and processes. Is it important for online businesses also? Yes, why not? Like Facebook, Google, Amazon, even though they are appearing on the screen of a mobile or a computer, they all store lot of data, and for storage of this data they need large or huge data centers, and most of these companies have data centers almost all over the world. This is one example of data center in Ohio. You can see it is constructed in a very like green area which has lot of trees and covered. It has some water body also. So, it is occupying the land in the natural zone, and these data centers, because they need to be air conditioned, they consume a huge amount of electricity. In 2022, they consumed 460 terawatt hours, and they are expected to increase by almost 2.5 times by 2026 in next 1 or 2 years. This is from the IEA website. So, these data centers they consume lot of electricity. So, they are going to have environmental impact. So, environmental management, is it important for online businesses? Yes, it is. But these online businesses, they have been doing some good contributions towards environment also. For example, in 2012, Facebook, I think, was one of the first organizations. They revealed their emissions data publicly, and there was a trend, like nobody used to reveal their emissions or negative side on environmental impact openly, but when they did it and also revealed commitment of how they are going to reduce those emissions by having renewable energy mix into their electricity requirement, it helped them, and it helped Facebook to capture more market, more customer trust, and it increased enormously. And that move motivated other tech giants like Google, Amazon, Microsoft. They also followed the similar thing, and then they joined together and formed Renewable Energy Buyers Alliance in US. It is one of the largest group of clean energy buyers. It was renamed recently as Clean Energy Buyers Association. Okay. So, at present, this Clean Energy Buyers Association has more than 400 members and occupies 1/5 of the Fortune 500 companies, which represents more than $20 trillion economy. So, it shows like almost 1/5 of the top Fortune 500 companies, they are concerned about environment. They have formed, they are attributed to this association of buying clean energy. So, that was all about environmental management. Now, someone has to work towards it, or who would be the person who manages the environment. The terminology can be called as, or the designation can be called as environmental managers. So, who is environmental manager? It is a professional responsible for developing, implementing and monitoring environmental policies and programs. Okay. So, that is the environmental manager who would be responsible for developing, implementing and monitoring the environmental policies and programs within an organization. And again, why? To ensure the regulatory compliance, sustainability and to reduce environmental impact. So, that is the definition as well as the job of an environmental manager. And to do this in a corporate environment or industry, there are some skills which are required for these managers, and some basic or the mandatory skills would be having the knowledge or information about laws, compliances, the EMS, environmental management systems, ISO standards as well as ESG standards. That person should be having analytical and problem solving skills, because at times some environmental issues or problems can come randomly. Some problems may be coming for the first time. Okay. So, they should have proper analytical and problem solving skills, project management and communication and training abilities, because it is the environmental manager who is going to be the connecting link between the employees who are actually going to work and the top management who are going to frame policies and plans related to environmental management. So, it is a very key interconnecting role playing person which is important. So, we will just go through one of the research papers which proves or which stresses why we need environmental manager and why is it important to have a good or efficient environmental manager. So, this study is based on I think 7 or 8 companies, like more than 100 people were interviewed, mainly the employees, and they were asked these different questions. So, the finding was most of the environmental managers, they believed that they do not have ownership of environmental performance. Okay. This is the environmental manager, these are employees. Okay. So, when environmental managers were interviewed, majority thought they do not have the ownership of environmental performance. It is with the top management or it is with people who are actually working, the employees. And most of the employees believed that it is a manager who has the ownership of environmental performance. Okay. So, that mismatch in the perspective of both manager and employees was there. Second question was, or the second observation was, half of the employees believed that environmental manager will bring some value in the company and it will support in their daily activities. But half of the employees, either they did not know who is environmental manager, and either they considered environmental manager as a constraint, because whenever you have to integrate environmental front in the corporate culture, it needs lot of reshuffling, restructuring, reallocation of budgets. There are changes or modifications in the way things work in the existing company. So, many people think it as a constraint. So, with this, the one last important question which was asked, whether they have clear objectives from their direction, and almost 100% employees said no. So, when this was the situation, even though some company having that environmental division, environmental manager, the system would be futile. It won't bear any useful benefits. So, there is need to make it more efficient, to develop awareness and to train employees and the different segments of people working in the company to make it success. So, the same study continued and presented this framework with the 4 questions, and these 4 questions were related to information, motivation, organization and strategy, and it is not only for company but for individual employee also. And what were those 4 questions? Is my actions coherent with the company strategy? First of all, the employees should be aware of what is the company strategy, and then they should be made aware of how their actions, even though it is a tiny role in the company, how it is coherent or how it is aligns with the company's strategy. That goes with the strategy. Second, do I have the right information to make decisions? This may be the question asked mainly by the environmental manager, because employees won't make much decisions, they would be just following the things or commands given by their supervisor or manager. So, that is on the basis of information. What are the incentives for me to take environmental actions? The motivation. Why should the manager or the employees or even the top management think about integrating environmental front in their corporate culture? What are the incentives for each level of management? That motivation should be brought to the table, so that each level of management thinks of environmental management as an important task. And then, is there a framework or established decision pathway for me to act? Okay. So, the actor here, though it is mainly an environmental manager, in different aspects, whether it is organization, motivation, information or strategy, the other levels of management may be involved, including top management as well as the lower management, including employees. So, this actor, if it has a clear and convincing answer to these 4 questions, then it will contribute positively to individual performance as well as company's performance so far as environmental front is concerned. Hence, the finding or the recommendation of this study was the company should integrate the principles of sustainability into both their everyday business processes and their strategic decision making. So, if it comes from the top management and if it the importance is given to the environmental front into the policy, vision and mission document of the company, and it is conveyed to all the employees of the company, that sets a proper base for environmental manager to pitch in and do his or her role efficiently. Okay. So, with that, what exactly is the role of environmental managers in company? First of all, it is his he or she is responsible for mainly development and implementation of plans and working closely with other groups within the organization. In corporate it happens like there are different departments, like you have HR department, you have safety department, you have production department, you have outreach department, you have dispatch, marketing. Okay, there are different departments. Each department will have different managers, different teams and will contribute in their own way to the core value or the core target or objective of the company. But then since environmental front can be integrated in each of these departments, each of these sections, it is very important for environmental manager to work closely with other groups within the organization. Okay. And whatever plans are developed need to be implemented under the supervision of environmental managers. So, some specific roles are mentioned here. One is compliance. Since environmental manager would be aware about the laws and compliance required for that particular company, the manager should also know all the activities and products associated with that company and which of those activities would have what impact on environment. Then only manager can think of how to comply with the state or national laws. Policy development. If there is already a policy existing in place for a company, it can also be modified. If there is no policy related to environment, a manager can help develop one. Monitoring and reporting. All the emissions data, whether it is air emission, liquid emissions, whether it is waste generated, all those things will be monitored and reported and kept record of. Resource management. If a company decides to include environmental management system in their framework, what resources would be required, and managing those resources which should govern that environmental division again comes under the role of environmental manager. Pollution and waste control, awareness and training, this is important, like to be able to work with other team members of other departments, the awareness and training is important, and environmental manager can play a role in that also. Sustainability projects, license again it has to deals with some legal binding documents of or agreements or NDAs, and establishing that connecting link between different sections of the company, mentioning that like the privacy of data, all those like the trust factor would be maintained. So, those things comes under license part, and that is also falling under the role of environmental manager. So, to summarize, in this lecture what we covered was the definition and importance of environmental management. After going through multiple lectures on planning part, in management we are going to see right after planning how we are going to execute those plans in place, that will come under the management. Why? And then we saw it from the corporate context also. What is the definition of environmental management and why is it important for corporates, whether it is an offline business or a online business. Then we went through the environmental manager, what is the definition, what are the skills required for being an environmental manager, and what is the need or importance of environmental manager in the company or a business. And finally, we listed down the roles, how that environmental manager can bring value to the company and what are his or her roles in the company. Thank you so much.